This is Professor C.A. Rohit Shroff and I welcome you all on behalf of JK classes. So in this lecture, as you are aware, what we are going to discuss is the RTP. So the discussion is going to be in 4 parts, I would say. Firstly, amendments. Second, we'll be discussing all the descriptive questions. Third, we'll be discussing all the MCQs and correct and incorrect. And fourth, I will be giving you the final tips that you should follow for preparing the subject of audit, the do's and don'ts on the chronology and everything that you require for audit. So do's and don'ts. So we have already discussed a lot of these things, I mean the do's and don'ts, but the final few things that I want you to take care of. So that we'll be discussing at the end of the video. The students who are done with RTP, they can skip the first 3 parts and directly go to the 4th part and see this particular part, but all the parts are going to be important. Starting firstly with amendments. There are no amendments, my friends. There are no amendments. Then people would say, then sir, why have they printed this chapter number 9? Why have they printed everything that company audit has amendment in, penalties and everything? So as such, there is no amendment. And why have they printed this? Now, whenever institute issues a RTP and they compare this with their modules. So till the time they do not revise the module, they will keep on reprinting this every single time till the time the module is amended, till the time module is revised. So the module that they had issued, that was issued in for May 22 attempts somewhere in the month of October 21. Since then they have not revised the modules. My friends, all the students who have attended the lectures with us, we have studied the revised things only. All these amendments we have already covered in our lectures. You need not refer to these amendments separately. But if there is obviously a student who was from the earlier attempts, I would suggest please go through this. You can also go through the earlier RTP lectures and go through those particular things as well. So going with the first part, there are no amendment as such. We need not discuss anything here. Only if a student who is from a very earlier attempt, please read through or see our earlier RTP lectures. In that you will get the detailed discussion of the amendments. Moving ahead with the second part, that is a descriptive question. Now how are we supposed to deal with this descriptive part? Now I do not want you to blindly just put this on 2x and listen to the answers and everything as such. I want you to take a small notebook or a double page. What you will do is, you read this one question, let us say question number 2a. You will read this, you will interpret. You will write only the head points in your that 2 pages or your notebook or whatever you're taking, and see, for example, what are the points you have written, and then when I discuss the suggested answer, what are the points they have written. So now you need to consider whether you are in a position to recollect this or not. Only then this is called as revision test paper. You need to see whether you are able to interpret the question and answer it correctly. For example, if you are not done with your whole syllabus, for example, if you are not confident with the chapter, do not blindly see this. For example, you finish chapter number 1, then you see this particular questions, then you see whether you are able to interpret it, whether you are able to correlate it. Okay, so what I would insist is, if you are done with your syllabus, then refer to the RTPs. But even all those students who are not done yet, no worries, just listen to this video. In that case, what you will be able to do is at least 15 to 16 questions will be covered today itself. Just put this on 2x and just go and listening. All these questions will be covered for you. So moving ahead with your chapter number 1, that is nature, scope and objective. The question number 1 says professional integrity and independence are considered essential characteristics of all professionals. These two are interlinked perspectives of the auditors. 1, independence of mind. 2, independence in appearance. So again, all the students who have studied with me, we have made our summary notes. If you recollect, we have written this answer in our books. This was nothing but our question number 12, part number C. that auditor should be independent in mind, auditor should be independent in appearance. Now, what do you mean by that? See, when you say auditor should be independent by mind, you should be in a position do your work as per professional skepticism. You should keep your objectivity. You should always be independent. So here, if you can do your work without the influences of allowing individual to act with integrity. So for example, no one can influence your decision. You can keep your integrity. You can exercise objectivity, and you can keep professional skepticism. So four requirements. Firstly, you should not be influenced. You should have integrity, that you should be honest. Objectivity, that means you should be unbiased. And you should have professional skepticism. You should always be alert. All my Mumbai students, all my Ahmedabad students, for professional skepticism, we use a term that auditor is a anna who's always chok karna. What do you mean by chok karna? That you are always alert. So these are the four things that you require to be independent by mind. But what do you mean by independent in appearance? See, though you may be independent, but if the opposite person thinks that your independence is at stake, then he will not trust your opinion. He will not have confidence in the opinion that you have given. So you should also appear. So you should avoid all the facts, avoidance of all the facts and circumstances that are so significant that a third party would conclude that your integrity, objectivity, and professional skepticism are compromised. So you should avoid the facts and circumstances because of which the third party thinks that this have been compromised. So independence of mind means that you will be doing your work without influences, with integrity, objectivity, professional skepticism. Independence in appearance means avoidance of facts and circumstances that are so significant that a third party would reasonably conclude that auditor's integrity, objectivity, and professional skepticism have been compromised. Okay, so this is nothing but your question number 2A. Moving ahead, a chartered accountant has a responsibility to remain independent by taking into context account which they practice, the threats to independence, and safeguards available to eliminate the threats. Explain the guiding principles. So again, all the students who have studied with me in our summary notes, we had written this under question number 12B. So what are the guiding principles? So what do you mean by guiding principles? In a way, safeguard. So they are saying for the public, for you to have for them to have confidence in you, it is essential that you should be independent. Because if you are not independent, they will not have confidence in your opinion. Secondly, to comply with the fundamental principles. To comply with the fundamental principles. What are the fundamental principles? In objectivity, integrity, professional skepticism. Integrity, objectivity, and professional skepticism. It is essential that you as an auditor should be independent. Thirdly, before you take up any task, you should consciously see whether there are any threats to independence. Threats to independence we have studied. There are 5 types of threats: self-interest, self-review, advocacy, familiarity, and intimidation. So we should see whether there are threats to independence. If there are threats, we should desist from taking the task. That is, we should avoid from taking the task, or we should apply safeguards. But if applying safeguards is not possible, we must not accept the work. We must not accept. So now what I want you to do is you must write points like this. Okay, this is the first point, second point, third point, fourth point, fifth point. And then you go to the answer and see whether you were able to, interpret it well and write the relevant points. So for example, the first point here says, for the public to have confidence. For the public to have confidence in the quality, it is essential that you should be independent. Secondly, for the key fundamental principle, that is integrity, objectivity, professional skepticism, require the auditor to be independent. Next, before taking any work, the auditor must consciously consider whether there are any threats to independence. Then, if threat exists, we should desist from the taking the task, or we should put in place the safeguard. If it is not possible to apply credible and adequate safeguard, then he must not accept the work. So again and again I'm repeating, all the students who have already prepared, please write few points like this in a very short crisp manner and then evaluate. If in case if you have not written, let us say, this point, then in that case you will be able to analyze, okay, this is the point that I'm not, I'm not written. I need to make sure when I go into the examination, if such a question is asked, I need to write this. Only then you will be able to test yourself well. So this was nature, scope and objective of audit. Both the questions have been covered in our notes, nothing new here. Okay, next question number 3A. The actions of the engagement partner and appropriate messages to the other members of the engagement team in responsibility for the overall quality of the audit. Each engagement emphasize the importance of audit quality, explained with reference to essay 220. So here, if you recollect our essay 220, so if you recollect in our notes, we had written something called as in general requirement lie up. In this is the first L that they are asking, that who has the leadership responsibility. What does the engagement partner do? What is the responsibility of the engagement partner in quality control? So if you recollect our answer, what will he do? He will inform the team members the importance of the quality. He will inform the whole engagement team that we need to comply with the professional standards. We need to comply with the professional standards and the legal and regulatory requirement. Next, not just the professional standard, we also need to comply with the firm's quality control policies. Thirdly, we need to issue reports that are appropriate in the circumstances, and we should be able to raise the concerns without the fear of reprisals. So these are the things that the engagement partner will do. So here this was about 220. Next, a very interesting question that they have asked. Why am I marking this important? These are few questions that you need to go through in this particular RTP, which may not be there in your module, which may not be there in our material. So you need to go through. This is a new kind of a question they have asked. An audit is distinctive from investigation. However, it is quite possible that sometimes investigation result from prima facie findings of the auditor. So what they are saying is, firstly, in part number 1, they are saying that the audit is different from investigation. So, you show the distinguish between the two. Secondly, they are saying it is possible that sometimes investigation result from findings of auditor. So once the auditor has a finding, it is because of auditor's finding that we are going into investigation. So here, firstly, we need to understand what is the difference between the two. So here what we will write is, see, audit is distinctive from investigation. Audit is distinctive from investigation. Now they are explaining what is investigation here. Investigation is critical examination of accounts with special purpose. For example, if fraud is suspected and specifically called to check the accounts whether fraud really exists. So here we are doing critical examination. So we want to get specific evidences to understand. For example, let us say if we are discussing about fraud, we are investigating fraud. We will never say we are, auditing that. Whereas in case of audit, we just want to give an assurance that the financial statement are free from material misstatement, whether due to error or fraud. So in audit, we are just giving a reasonable assurance, but in investigation, it is a critical examination. So here they explain what is investigation. Here they explain what is audit. Now, in the third para, what they are saying is, audit is never started with a preconceived notion about the state affairs, about wrongdoing. So if you recollect in professional skepticism, I always told you that we are always alert. So auditor is watchdog but not bloodhound. So we will never start audit with the notion that says something is always wrong. Okay, but what some wrong having been committed, the auditor seeks to report what he finds in the normal course of examination. Lastly, are saying it is possible that sometimes investigation result from prima facie findings of the auditor. It may happen that the auditor has given some findings of serious concern. Such findings may prompt for investigation. So if we find something wrongdoings in case of audit, because of those, for example, while we were auditing, we came across, there is cash embezzlement. We came across that there is some teaming and lading going on. Then in that case, we'll conduct a investigation. So a lot of times findings of audit will result into investigation is what they are trying to say. So this is a question that you need to refer it from here. So far what we have covered is your chapter number 1, that is nature, scope and objective of audit. Moving ahead with chapter number 2. Chapter number 2 they have beautifully framed a MCQ, a integrated based case study in this RTP as well. So do not miss out on that part as well. In the next part, we are going to discuss the MCQs, everything as well. So the case study number 1 is very excellent based on this particular chapter. Now, what is question number 4A trying to tell us? Now, 4A is saying SS 300 states auditor should plan his work to enable him to conduct an effective and efficient timely manner. What matters should be covered in such plan? So they are saying we should plan, but what all matters should be covered in the plan? So what all should be covered in the plan? So firstly, plan should be made to cover, among the other things, acquiring the knowledge of the client's accounting system, policies, internal control. Because see, when we understand the accounting system, internal control, the policies, that is why how we will assess our ROMMS. Second is a degree of reliance to be placed on internal control, because of this you will be able to ascertain the control risk. Based on this, you will decide the NTE, that is determining the nature, timing, and extent of audit procedures to be performed. And lastly, you will be coordinating the work to be performed. So what are the things that you need to include? Understanding the client's accounting system, policies, internal control. Next, how much degree of reliance shall we keep on the internal controls? What should be our NT, and coordinating the work to be performed? So very simple, what are the things that you should keep there? Question number 4B is a very straightaway simple question. Adequate planning benefits of the audit of the financial statement in several ways. So if you recollect our planning, what are the benefits of planning? We had written this answer in our book. So it helps us to give attention to the important areas. Next, we can resolve the potential problems on a timely basis. We can organize and manage the audit in an efficient way. Then assisting the selection of the engagement team members. It will help us in the direction and supervision, and assisting where applicable in coordination of the work done. So these are the benefits. I'm not wasting your time in all these questions, because these are very straightaway simple questions that we have discussed in the lectures very much in depth. So this was about the benefits of planning. This was about what? Benefits of planning. So this is our question number 4. Moving ahead with our question number 5. In overall audit strategy, the auditor shall identify characteristics of the engagement that define its scope, explain with example. So once again, what they are saying is, in establishing overall strategy, auditor shall identify the engagement that defines its scope, explain with example. So now let us understand what are the examples they are talking about. So this is also an important question that you must go through from here. So in establishing the strategy, what you will consider? Examples of the audit coverage, that is including the number of branches and the location. So what is exactly going to be your coverage? What are you going to cover? Next, the nature of the business segments to be audited, including the need for any specialized knowledge. Do we need any specialized knowledge? And if you have already been auditor of the previous year, expected use of audit evidence obtained in the previous audit. For example, evidence related to the risk assessment procedure and test of control. So you can also consider all your experience from the previous audit as well while you are establishing your overall strategy. So this is also an important question that you need to refer from your. So 2 important questions we have marked so far. One is question number 3B, one is question number 5. When I say important, this is not important that it will be asked in the examination. These are the points which were not earlier there in the module which ICI has asked. Moving ahead with question number 6. Messrs. Amar and Associate are the statutory auditors of Ganga Limited for the financial year 2021. Samar is the engagement partner for such assignment. While discussing with the engagement team, CS Samar briefed his team that the auditor shall assemble the audit documentation in an audit file and complete the administrative process of assembling the final file on a timely basis after the date of report. SQC1 requires the firm to establish policies and procedures for the retention of the documentation. So we have already studied this while we were doing essay 230. We have discussed that what are the requirements of SQC1, that we need to retain it for how many years, within how much time do we need to assemble, So as per SQC1, we need to retain it for how many years? 7 long years. We need to assemble it within how many days? 60 days. Then we cannot make any changes except for administrative changes. What are the administrative changes? Can we delete or discard the superseded documentation? Yes. We can do the sorting and the collating. We can do the cross referencing. We can sign off the completion checklist relating to the final assembly, and a documenting audit evidence that the auditor has obtained, discussed and agreed with the relevant members of the engagement team. So all those things you are allowed to do. Once again, let us go point by point. SQC1. Now firstly, the difficult task that you need to do here is memorize the name here. The SQC1, that is quality control for firm that performs audit and review of historical financial information and other assurance and related service. So you need to memorize the name of SQC1. Requires the firm to establish policies and procedures for timely completion of the assembly of the audit files. An appropriate time limit within which to complete assembly of the final file is ordinarily not more than 60 days after the date of the auditor's report. The completion of the assembly of the final audit file after the date of report is an administrative process and does not involve performance of new procedures. So administrative nature are okay, but anything else is not okay. Here they have explained what are the administrative nature changes. Please make sure you refer this. If there is any student who do not recollect this point, please go to the recorded version. All these 4 points are very, very, very important. Deleting or discarding superseded documentation. We can do the sorting. We can sign off the completion checklist, and we can also document that we had obtained, discuss with the teams of the relevant engagement team. After the assembly of the final file has been completed, auditor cannot delete or discard till the retention period. SQC1 says what is the retention period? 7 years. So we have to retain this for how many years? 7 years. So SQC1 firm establishes policies and procedures for the retention of the documentation. The retention period is not shorter than 7 years from the date of the report, or if later, the date of the group auditor's report. So you need to mention this point as well. So this was nothing but your SQC1, which we have studied in Essay 230. Next, again they are asking you about Essay 230. Audit documentation deals with the auditor's responsibility to prepare audit documentation for the financial statement. Such documentation serves a various purpose. So all the students who have studied with us, I hope you were able to recollect the answer. If you can recollect, our code was nothing but what? Fad pi. It is helpful for future. Then we know who is accountable. It will help us for direction and supervision. It will help us in planning. It will help for inspection. It will help us for external inspection. So you need to write the purpose here. So assisting the engagement team to plan, assisting the engagement team to direct and supervise, will know who is accountable for the work, for continuous significance for the future audit. So this was F, this was A, this was D, this was P. Then they are saying it will help us for the inspection. It will also help us for the external inspection. So here the answer is nothing but what? Fat pi. Okay, so I am assuming you are aware of this. All the students who are not JKSC students, we also have a marathon revision lecture. You can go and refer to the same. There are no amendments post that. You can refer that lectures, no worries at all. Worst case, if you are not confident with any chapter, if you want more detail, you need not buy the whole crash course or the whole course. You can go on online jkshahclasses.com and you can also buy one single chapter. So this was nothing but your question number 6B, Essay 230. Next, 7A. Messrs. Suraj and Associates are the statutory auditors of Yuvraj Limited for the financial year 2021. During the course of audit, CS Suraj, the engagement partner, requested the management of the company to provide written representation with respect to valuation of transaction. The management did not provide the same to CS Suraj. What course of action should CS Suraj follow in this situation? So what they are trying to say is, okay, here CS Suraj, what he did was he asked for a return representation, but management did not provide return representation. If you recollect, what was our answer? What we will write is a DER plus a disclaimer. That is, we will discuss with the management. We will take appropriate action. We will have to reevaluate the integrity of the management. So let us go through the answer here. What is a D? We will discuss with the management. A is we will take appropriate action, and from R we will re-evaluate the integrity of the management. We may also have to modify opinion as per 705. So what you will write here is nothing but DER, which we have already written as a frequently asked question. So this was your SA 580. Next, explain the factors affecting auditor's judgment as to sufficiency of the audit evidence. So our sufficiency is affected by four things. If we open our SA 500, this is the first answer that we have written. What affects? Materiality affects, ROMMS affects, size of the population affects. Okay, size of a population and characteristics will also affect. So these are nothing but the examples which may affect your sufficiency. If materiality is relevant, then in that case it will affect your quantity. Depends on ROMMS. If ROMMS is high, then quantity required is high. Then if the size of the population is greater, then the quantity, that is sufficiency, is required is more. So this is nothing but your SA 500, which also we have covered. But once again, let us read through this particular answer. Now all the 3 points they have elaborated. In a summary notes, all we have written is headers, but in JKC textbook this answer has been covered in detail. It may be defined as significance of class of transaction, account balance and presentation. What is ROMMS? It has two components, inherent risk and control risk. And lastly, size of the population is nothing but the items included in a population. So these are the three factors that affects. Next, what is the objective of the auditor with respect to the opening balance when conducting initial audit engagement? So this is about SA 510. What we want to obtain is an evidence whether the opening balance are correct or incorrect. Okay, and also the accounting policies have been consistently applied, and if there is any change, the change has been correctly accounted and disclosed. So what is my objective? That opening balance contain misstatement that materially affect the current period financial statement. Secondly, accounting policies have been consistently applied, and if there is a change, the change is adequately presented and disclosed in the financial statement as per the AFRF. This is nothing but our objective as regards to our initial audit engagement. So my friends, rarely they would ask you an objective, so make sure you focus on objectives as well. So this was your SA 510. So far we are done with 3 chapters: nature, scope and objectives. Second was audit strategy, planning and programming, and thirdly was audit evidence and documentation. Moving ahead with chapter number 4, my friends, chapter number 4's weightage over a period of years is rising and rising. So you cannot skip this chapter at all. Make sure you do this chapter. Make sure you open at least previous 6 attempts RTP and go through every question of this chapter. So you are in a very good position to interpret what the question is trying to say, what are they trying to ask, because the chapter is going to give you at least 8 marks to 12 marks in your examination. So make sure this is a category chapter and you do not skip this chapter at all. Worst case, if you are not prepared, what I would suggest, if you are short of time, because I understand this is almost in the month of March and you have just one more month to prepare. So if you are not prepared, what you can least do is take last 6 attempts RTP, all the question asked in this particular chapter. Make sure you do this, all 6 questions. So make sure all the questions of the last 6 RTPs of this chapter, even if you cover those questions, you will be in a position to answer in the examination. So moving ahead, question number 9A. It has been suggested that the actual operation of internal control should be tested by application of procedural test and examination in depth. Explain with the help of example in respect of procedure for sales. So they have specifically asked you example for procedure of sales. How will you apply procedural test and examination in depth for sales? So this is a very important question that they have added in the RTP. You must refer this answer from here. So now what they are trying to tell you for procedural test is, procedural test is nothing but where we are testing the procedures laid down. What the word is trying to say is we test the procedures laid down by the management for what? For initiation, for authorization, for recording, for documentation of transaction at each stage. Firstly, initiation, authorization, recording, and nothing but documentation of transaction each stage. Now the examples that they have given for sales are what? Firstly, they are saying before we accept the order of possession, see whether we will be able to execute in time. Only if we will be able to deliver to them, only then we should accept the order or we should not accept the order. Secondly, an advice under authorization of sales manager should be sent to the party placing the order, internal reference number and acceptance of the order. This advice should be prepared on a standardized form and copy, therefore should be forwarded to the inventory section to enable it prepare for the execution of the order in time. So as soon as the sales manager has accepted an order, he will send this an internal reference number, so our internal team would know, okay, what are the resource we need, what are the inventory we need, so we can execute the order in time and deliver to them in time. Thirdly, the credit period should be normal credit period. We should not give anything more than the credit period that we allow to others. Next, we are saying the rate at which the order has been placed and accepted about the transport insurance should be clearly specified. So a lot of times, it depends from terms to terms. A lot of time we may bear the insurance, we may bear the transport charges, a lot of time the opposite party will. So everything should be clearly specified in the contract, or else it will lead to litigations. Next, before deciding upon the credit period, a reference should be made to the credit section to the known credit worthiness of the party, whether the party has honored its commitment in the past. So if I'm giving him a longer credit period, I need to evaluate what is his credit worthiness, whether he'll be in a position to pay. So this was an important question. So far we have marked 3 important questions. One was question number 3B, next was question number 5, and this was question number 9. These are the 3 questions so far that you need to discuss, refer from the RTP. Next, a very simple question: what are the limitations of the internal control? So what are the internal control? That even if that you have internal control, it is only going to provide you a reasonable assurance, not an absolute assurance. A lot of time human judgments are involved while we make this. A lot of times we do not understand what is the purpose of this particular thing. A lot of times we may just devise internal controls without understanding the purpose. When there is a collusion among people, we always take an example of RTO and everything. When there is a collusion among people, then the internal controls may not work. When the judgments are taken by the management, in case of small entities, it is not possible to implement so much of internal control. These are few of the limitations. So all the answers, my friends, which we have discussed in the notebook very much in detail, I'm not wasting your time. These are as it is, where it is, cut, copy, paste that we have referred. So you can refer it from there. Next, chapter number 5, question number 11. Detection of manipulation of accounts with a view to representing a false state of affairs is a task requiring great tact and intelligence. Explain stating the objectives behind committing this type of fraud. So if you recollect our answer of manipulation of accounts, there were 2 parts: why is it done and how is it done. When they are asking objectives, so basically they are asking why do you do manipulation of accounts. Obviously the most, okay, I'm extremely sorry, we have missed one question. Okay, let us first finish question number 11 and then let's go to question number 10 once again. So here what you are trying to say is in question number 11, manipulation of accounts, we are going to avoid. Why are we doing this? To avoid taxes. That is one of the most prime reason. Second, we want to declare dividend when we have insufficient profits. To declare dividend, we need sufficient profits, but even if we don't have profits, we wish to declare, and hence we are manipulating the accounts. Third is vice versa. We have sufficient profits, but we do not intend to declare dividend. We want to withhold the dividend. Or a lot of times the remuneration is based on the profit. So they are increasing the profits just so that they can get higher remuneration. So these are all the reasons why do we do manipulation of accounts. So this is something that we have already covered. Okay, so question number 10 was important for us to discuss what content to write. See, question number 10, they are asking the division of internal controls into 5 components provides useful framework for the auditor to consider how different aspects of entities' internal control may affect. Mention those components. So if you recollect, under each component we had studied a lot of things. Here you need not write everything in detail. All they are expecting you to write is only the name of those 5 components. We will write only the name of those 5 components, that is control environment. If you recollect, that is nothing but the culture and the honesty. Then entities risk assessment, not auditors risk assessment. Then monitoring of control activities, and lastly your IT system. So this is nothing but the 5 components. They have asked you 5 components. Do not write the whole description, or else for 4 marks you will keep on writing almost 2 to 3, 3, 4, 4 pages, which does not make sense. Next, question number 12. In the audit of financial statements of PQR, CA Vikas Khemka finds that cash received have been suppressed. Give examples of such techniques which may have led to him suspect this. So, how can the cash be suppressed? What do you mean by suppressed? We show less, we show less of cash receipts. So, we'll have to give all the examples. One can be teaming and lading. What do you mean by teaming and lading? Let us say Mr. A gave us rupees 1 lakh. We put that 1 lakh rupees in our pocket. Later on, Mr. B also gave us 1 lakh. But in books of accounts, we are showing that who paid this? Mr. A. So we are making sure that A's account is nullified. A's account shows no outstanding balance. After a point of time, Mr. C gave us 1 lakh rupees. Now in books, we are showing who gave this? B. So B's account is nowhere outstanding. We'll keep on continuing this. When D gave us, in our books, we will show that who gave us? C. Eventually, there will be a point of time where Mr. Z will come. There is no one else to pay money. So this 1 lakh that we put in our pocket, we will again deposit here and will show who paid this amount? Z. This is called as steaming and lading. That is, we show less receipts and we manipulate that. Second, adjusting unauthorized or fictitious rebates. So for example, our management has told us if the customer bargains a lot, then in that case you can give him 10% discount. But customer was a very godly person, a heavenly person. He did not ask for a single penny discount. But in books we showed that we had to give him 10% discount. Though the customer paid us 1 lakh, in the books we showed that we have received only 90,000 and this 10,000 has been taken away. So we are suppressing the receipts. Writing of bad debts in which cash has been received. So the debtor paid us in full. Let us say Vijay Mallya paid us 5 lakh rupees in full. Next day there was a news in the newspaper that he has flown back. He has flown to London and everything. So we told our management that Vijay Mallya did not pay a single penny to us, and we write off this bad debts. But however, he had paid to us. This money is put into the cashier's pocket. No accounting of cash sales fully. So we have done cash sales. All the amount that we have received, we again put into our pocket. We did not record this at all. So these are the way that we can suppress the receipts. Not accounting for miscellaneous receipts. For example, we do sale of scrap. A lot of times such sale of scrap and everything has not been recorded. Writing down values in entirely, selling them subsequently, and misappropriating proceeds. Let us say we have some printers. We write off the value completely, but however we sold that printer for, let us say, 500 rupees, 1000 rupees. We can do all such things. So these are the ways by which you can suppress your cash receipts. So this was your chapter number 5. Moving ahead with one of your favorite chapters, that is your chapter number 6, audit in an automated environment. My friends, though you do not like EIS, though you do not like audit as well, but though you do hate EIS, my friends, do not hate this chapter, because this is one of the easiest chapter of auditing, and the questions are repetitive in nature, and they ask you straight away questions where there will be no case studies. You do not need to rack your brains. All you need to do is memorize a few things. So which of the following in an automated and with the respect of the environment, explain the following. So they'll help you, ask you for all the definitions. So I'm not wasting your time with all the definitions. We have already done all these things. So you need to just go through the definition of this. Next, the responsibility includes reporting on internal financial control, which includes the understanding of the IT environment of the company and the relevant risk. Mention the situations where IT will be relevant to audit. So they are asking, where will IT be relevant to the audit? So in Companies Act, we have studied that we need to report whether the company has adequate internal financial control. So what are the situations where IT will be relevant in audit? So all these are the illustrative examples. So they are saying there is increased use of system and application software in the business. So obviously IT is important. Complexity of the transaction, high tech nature of the business. Today we are into a, where everything is e-commerce based, all our banking is net banking and everything. Volume of transactions are high. Company policy, regulatory requirements required by the Indian and the international standards, increase in the efficiency and effectiveness of the audit. So these are all the cases where we require audit. Very basic answer, but you must refer this particular answer from here. So you will also need to mark question number 14 important. So this was your chapter number 6, that is audit in an automated environment. Chapter number 7, random selection ensures that all population or within each stratum known have a chance of selection. Random sampling includes two very popular methods. So here all you need to do is explain what is random sampling. There are two methods to it. One is simple random sampling and second is stratified random sampling. All you need to do is explain what is simple random sampling and what is stratified random sampling. A very easy answer that we have covered in our notebooks. Simple random sampling means every unit has an equal chance of selection. In stratified sampling, we divide the whole population into various stratas, into various groups, and each strata is treated as a different population, and we apply our audit procedures to those items. So this was our random selection. Next, while planning the auditor of S Limited, you want to apply sampling technique. What are the risk factor you should keep in mind? One of the again frequently asked question. What are the two fraud risk factors? If you recollect a notebook, in case of test of controls, that controls are more effective than they actually are. In case of test of details, that a material misstatement does not exist when it in fact does. The auditor is primarily concerned with this type of error because it affects audit effectiveness and is more likely to lead to an inappropriate opinion. Whereas the second risk was in case of test of controls, that controls are less effective than they actually are. In case of test of details, that a material misstatement exists when in fact it does not. This affects audit efficiency as it would lead to additional work to establish that the initial conclusions were incorrect. So this is nothing but what are the two fraud risk factors. Next, if analytical procedures performed in accordance with SA 520 identify fluctuation or in relationship that are inconsistent with other relevant information or that differ from the expected value by a significant amount, auditor shall investigate such difference. So straight away they are asking you, how do we investigate? So how do we investigate? Firstly, we'll inquire from the management. If we do not get a response from the management or the response is considered inadequate, only then we will perform other procedures. So firstly, we will do an inquiry from the management. Secondly, we will perform other procedures. But the need to perform other procedures may arise when management is unable to provide an explanation or the explanation is not considered adequate, or else there is no need to perform other procedures. So this was investigation. Again, a notebook answer, nothing to be done. While applying substantive analytical procedure, what techniques can be used by the statutory auditor to obtain sufficient and appropriate evidence? So all you need to mention here is techniques. What were the techniques? Ratio analysis, then we had trend analysis, then we had structural modeling, and lastly there was a reasonableness test. So you need to apply all the four methods. This is a frequently asked question of RTPs. If you go and see last 6 to 7 RTPs, most frequently asked question is what is the methods. Moving ahead once again to your favorite chapter, that is your chapter number 9, audit of items of financial statement. While verifying the property plant equipment of the client, the auditor needs to consider whether property plant equipment has been valued appropriately as per the generally accepted accounting principle and practices. So what we need to do here is we want just to ascertain that the valuation of property, plant and equipment is appropriate. So for property, plant, equipment intangible assets, what are you going to check? So you're going to check whether the depreciation charge is correctly or not. Then if the asset is, for example, a non-depreciable asset, then we will not charge, for example in case of freehold land. Secondly, we need to understand what are the depreciation methods that we have used, whether there is a pattern, whether there is a consistency. Thirdly, we need to verify whether the management has done impairment. See, impairment AS28 is not in your syllabus, but I have always mentioned in the lecture that should also always give a reference to this. So if write the impairment in lectures, we have also understood AS28 only for understanding, though it is not part of your syllabus, but I've explained you during the class what is impairment. So you need to write about the impairment as well. Next is, what are the disclosures? They are asking what are the disclosures of the cash and cash equivalent as per the schedule 3. So basically they are testing your CA foundation knowledge and they are asking you what do we need to disclose under the cash and cash equivalent. So you need to say cash and cash equivalent can be classified as what is the amount with the bank, what is the checks, drafts on hand, cash on hand and others. You also need to give what are the earmark balances with bank, for example the unpaid dividend that is to be kept separately. Secondly, balances with the bank to the extent as margin money, because we cannot take that. Then repatriation restrictions, if there are any, which we cannot remove from that bank. And bank deposit with more than 12 months maturity shall be disclosed separately. So this is nothing but your schedule 3 that you have done at your foundation. This is not inter, but you need to refer this. Next, CS Saurabh is the statutory auditor of UVW for the year 2021. While verifying the purchases made by UVW, CS Saurabh decided to perform analytical procedures to obtain evidence regarding the reasonableness of the purchase quantity and price. My friends, in our lectures we have done this question. I had told you this question is not there in the module. This question is was asked in the RTP only, in the past RTP, which they have repeated. So all the students who have attended the lecture will find this very simple. We can do consumption analysis. For example, let us say for making 1000 shirt, we were using 4000 meters of cloth. So basically 4 meter per shirt. But now let us say if we are making 2000 shirt and we are showing we are using 12,000 meter. So somewhere we'll understand that something is wrong, because we cannot use 6 meter per cloth. Something is going wrong here. So this is consumption analysis. Next is stock composition analysis. So let us say out of the whole stock, raw material is, for example, 50%, work in progress is say 25%, our finished goods is, let's say, 25%. This is how 100% is made up. This is how 100% is made up. Now let us say this year the raw material has gone to 90%. We'll understand something is wrong. So this is stock composition analysis. We can use ratios, that is creditors turnover ratio, stock turnover ratio, and lastly we can also do quantitative reconciliation. How do we do quantitative reconciliation? We have opening stock, add purchases, less sales, what we'll guess is closing stock. Now we have figures of everything. This time purchases will be a remaining figure and we'll see whether the quantity is matching or not matching. These are the methods that we can use. So again, this was a notebook answer that we have covered. You need not worry about this. Next is company audit. XYZ Limited removed their statutory auditor by passing a resolution in the meeting of a board of directors for his removal without obtaining prior approval of the central government. Such removal of the auditor was made before the expiry of the auditor. Give your comments. So this is before the expiry. If you are doing before the expiry, you need to obtain a central government's approval, without which cannot do. This we have discussed during our lectures. So you need to mention section 140 subsection 1 year and the whole process. S Private Limited has a paid up share capital of 49 crores and borrowings from banks of 99 crores. The audit of P and Company, okay, so this was nothing but a private limited company, was appointed. Audit from P and Company was appointed as statutory auditors for one term of 6 consecutive years. Is the provision of rotation applicable? See, rotation is applicable as per 139(2) to listed company, public company if the paid up share capital is 10 crores or more, or the borrowings is 50 crores or more. For a private company, if the paid up share capital is 50 crores or more, or the borrowings is 50 crores or more. who have they excluded? One person company and small company. Here the borrowings is more than 50 crores. The paid up share capital is less than 50, but borrowings is more than 50 crores. Hence rotation is applicable. Hence you cannot appoint them for 6 consecutive years. They can be appointed for 5 years and not 6 years. So this was external rotation. The recommendation of appointment of auditor is done by several functions performed by the audit committee. Discuss other key responsibilities of the audit committee. My friends, if you recollect, what will audit committee do? Audit committee will wear a sari. So here they have asked what all things the audit committee will do. So we'll write all those things. So they have given a lot of points here. The audit committee performs wide function. The recommendation for appointment of auditor is only one of the several functions performed by the audit committee. The recommendation for appointment, remuneration and terms of the appointment, review and monitor the independence and performance and effectiveness of the process, examination of the financial statement and the auditor's report thereon, approval of the subsequent modifications, scrutiny of the intercorporate loans, evaluation of the undertaking of the assets, evaluation of financial controls, monitoring of the end use of funds. So they have given a lot of things. You need to write all those things here. So this question also I am marking important. Question number 23 is also something that you need to refer from the RTP. Okay, so question number 23, this was company audit. Moving ahead with your question 24. The description of the management's responsibility in the auditor's report includes reference to the management responsibility as it helps to understand the premise. Explain. So all they are expecting here you to is write the detailed management responsibility para. So if you recollect in management responsibility para, what we will write? That preparing financial statement as per AFRF is the responsibility of the management, plus internal control is responsibility of the management. Making sure that going concern is appropriate is responsibility of the management, and wherever there is those charged with governance who will keep a who will keep an oversight over the financial reporting process, it is those charged with governance. So we need to write the management responsibility paragraph here that we have referred in our SA 700. Next, in considering the qualitative aspects of entities accounting practices, the auditor may become aware of possible bias in the management's judgment. The auditor may conclude lack of neutrality with uncorrected misstatement, cause the financial statement to be materially misstated. Explain and analyze the indicators of the lack of neutrality. My friends, this is a past RTP questions which they have frequently asked, though I am of the opinion that they should not ask this you at inter CA level, because this lack of neutrality and everything is actually part of SA 450, which is technically not part of your syllabus. Qualitative aspects of accounting policies is also technically part of SA 260, which is also not part of your syllabus. So this question should not be asked, but they have been frequently asking these questions in the RTPs. I'm not sure whether copy pasting or what is going wrong, but if they are asking this, we need to prepare this answer. Your question number 25 also you need to mark this important. This is an important question because they are asking frequently. We'll have to make sure we prepare it very well. So let us understand question number 25 here. So now whenever we considering the qualitative aspects, so here what they have done is they have not mentioned 260, they have not mentioned 450, but they have written the same answer. So what they are saying is whenever we are considering qualitative aspects of the accounting policy, we may come across possible bias in the management judgments. What do you mean by bias in the judgment? They are taking judgments in such a way that it may favor them. So let us take a few examples which indicates lack of neutrality. What do you mean by lack of neutrality? Same thing, that is biasness. So first is selective correction of misstatements brought to the management's attention during the audit. Now let us say we have communicated 4 misstatements. We have communicated them 4 misstatements in the financial statements. Now because of 2 misstatements, if they correct those misstatements, for example, let us say in 2 misstatements the expenses were understated. So if they correct those misstatements, the expenses will go up if they correct it. If the expenses will go up, the profit will reduce, and so the tax will also reduce. The remaining two mistakes are cases where the expenses are, if they change it, the expenses will reduce. So they have, overcharged. So if they rectify it, the expenses will reduce. If expenses reduces, the profit will go up. If profit goes up, tax will also go up. Now the management does not want to pay tax, they want to evade tax. So what they are doing is they are rectifying these two mistakes, because of which the expenses will go up, profit will reduce, and hence the tax will reduce. But however, they are not rectifying these two mistakes. Because of this, the expenses will decrease, profit will increase, and tax liability will increase. So there is a selective correction. So they are, correcting only those misstatements which are in their favor, and not correcting misstatements which are not in their favor. So this is giving you an indication that the management may be biased. Now, correcting misstatement with effect of increasing reported earnings, but not correcting misstatement that have effect on the decreasing. So in case if the management wants to show more profit, then in that case they will rectify this. If they want to show less profit, they will rectify this. Next, combination of several deficiency affecting the same significant account or internal control could amount to significant deficiency. So there are a lot of small misstatements, but they are affecting the same account or internal control. This may be also an indicator of possible bias. Possible bias in making the accounting estimates. Let us say, for example, we want to see what is the depreciation for air conditioner, but for that we take a formula cost minus scrap divided by estimated useful life. We know that an air conditioner average life is around 7 years, 5 to 10 years, anything between that. But we have taken the estimate to be only 3 years. Will an air conditioner, be there for only for 3 years? Or we have taken 15 years. Will the air conditioner work in a proper condition for 15 years? No. So there is a biasness in the estimates. Let us say there is a past trend that, the bed death has been around 5%, but we have created an RDD of only 2%, or we have created an RDD of 10%. So this is showing a biasness in the management's judgment. So this is an important question that you need to go through. Question number 25. Bank audit, both the questions are important. Question 26, question 27. Please make sure you see both the questions here. Explain how would you follow to check the operating expenses. So for operating expenses, what are you going to check? Firstly, as always, we can always check the internal control. The auditor should study and evaluate the internal controls relating to the expenses, including who authorized it, what, to determine the NTE. So firstly, we are understanding what are the internal controls related to expenses. If the internal controls are strong, then ROMMS is less, my NTE will be less. Secondly, we will see whether there are any divergent trends. So for example, let us say every year our, for example, printing and stationery is 2% of our all the total expenses, but however this time it has gone to almost 10%, then we'll understand there is something wrong here. We can apply analytical procedures. So what we can apply here is a reasonableness test. So considering again, the same example of printing and stationery, if we know, okay, the printing and stationery is always around 10 to 15 crores, but this time we have shown it at around, let us say, 120 crores, we'll understand this is not reasonable. Next, what we can do is a very basic thing, that is vouching and verification. So firstly, we can test internal controls. Then what we can do is divergent trends, substantive procedures, vouching and verification. So what you can call this is nothing but WITS. Okay, so you can call WITS, that's V is vouching and verification, internal control, divergent trends, and substantive analytical procedure. So this was about operating expenses. Next, Mr. Rishikesh, the bank manager, develops control to assist the manager in managing key business and financial risk. Discuss the various requirements of the effective risk management system. My friends, what they are asking is for the effective risk management system. So this answer also you need to go from here. Now, an effective risk management in bank generally requires oversight of those charged with governance. So oversight and involvement in the process by TCWG, they should take care about everything. Those charged with governance should approve return risk management policies. They should have their own risk management policies. Whom are we going to give credit? How are we evaluating that credit worthiness? Because we end up giving money to everyone, and if that person does not pay, it will turn into NPA. Eventually, the bank will suffer losses, the shareholders will suffer losses. So we should have a return risk policies. The policy should be consistent with the objectives and the strategies, capital strength, management expertise, regulatory requirement. Next, identification, measurement, and monitoring of risk. Risk should carefully be significant impact the achievement of the bank's goal, should be identified, measured, and monitored, and pre-approved limits criteria. So what we need to see is what should be, the risk that could impact bank's goals should be identified. If for example, if we end up giving loans to who does not have credit worthiness, will affect our goals, because at the end it is wealth maximization that we want. Next, what are the control activities? Do we have segregation of duties? This control activities I'm not discussing in detail, because you have discussed, you know this very much in detail in your EIS. Then we should have monitoring activities, to risk management models, methodology, and assumptions to measure and manage the risk. And we should have a reliable information system. Via information system, those child with governing will get a lot of MIS reports and they can monitor things. So this was about effective risk management. They have not covered very much in detail, but this is a new point which we have not usually covered. So who should keep an oversight? Those charged with governance. We should have identification, measurement, and monitoring of risk. The risk should be significantly, risk that impact the achievement of the goals should be monitored. Third, we should have control activities. Next, we should have monitoring activities. We should have reliable information system. So this was all about bank audit. Next, they are talking about government audit. Government audit, firstly what they are asking you about is expenditure audit. So this point we have already covered. What are all we going to do in expenditure audit? And also they have told you about the important objectives of local bodies. So both the points we have already covered in our syllabus. So we need to write here about the expenditure audit, and here we are going to write what are the objectives of the local body. So with this we are done with a descriptive question. So we were going to discuss this RTP in 4 equal parts. We are done with the first 2 parts. First is the amendments, then it is the descriptive question. Now descriptive question, there are few important questions that you need to mark, so make sure you mark those questions, so you will have to refer those questions. So there are certain questions in the descriptive that you must go. So all the students have studied with me, even if you go through only and only these questions, you will be done through, because all the rest questions are covered in detail in our notebook. So question 3b, question 5, 9, 14, 23, 25, 26, 27, these are the only questions that you need to go through. Rest of the questions are covered, but like what I have described is, even the questions which we have covered, what you should do is read the question, try to interpret, write in a notebook the head points. Okay, these are the points I will write, and see the answer if you were able to recollect it. Let us move ahead with our discussion of the third part, that is your MCQs and correct incorrect. So moving ahead with case study scenario 1. Comparatively, the size of the case study scenario 1 is small. If you have seen the earlier RTPs or any XYZ material, they usually ask you for 1.5 sides or 2 pages, but this is comparatively a very small case study. So let us read through it. Kaur, an associate, a sole proprietor firm of Simran Kaur, is appointed as the auditor of a company engaged in manufacturing of automobile components for the first time. She in fact is checking about the integrity of the promoters of the company and the key managerial personnel. Matters such as competence of the staff to perform the engagement are also considered by her. The appointment is subsequently accepted. So later on she accepted. Okay. She is taking into account the number of locations of the branches of the company, requirements of the Schedule 3 of the Companies Act, and the expected time by which the audit will be completed by keeping in view the statutory requirements. Initially, she thought it might be proper to inquire the key employees of the company in the procurement and the marketing departments and planned for the same. She also planned to visit 3 plants of the company. The purpose of the planned visit, inquiry and visit is to identify and assess ROMMS. So based on this, she can decide her NT. A detailed instructions of the has been prepared by her office and it has handed over to the assistant in the engagement team. These instructions include the extent of checking, that is what sampling, the nature of the audit procedures to be performed regarding purchase, sales, and various items. During the course of execution of the above set, it has been brought to a notice that company is also producing substantial quantities of scrap generated during manufacturing. However, no instructions have been given to the engagement team in this regard. Fine. So we have understood what the case is trying to tell us. If you are not able to understand, first I would insist pause the video and read the question. Now, based on the above, answer the following. A lot of times on case study based questions, a lot of times if they have asked 5 questions, 2 or 3 questions, maybe a lot of times you will be able to answer even if you not read the case study. Here, the auditor is fact checking about the promoters, the key managerial person. She is also considering the competence of the staff. What is she trying to do? Is she establishing a strategy here? She is conducting preliminary engagement activities. She is designing a plan, or she is checking her compliance of ethical requirements. So she is not checking her ethical requirements. She is checking whether the management is ethical. So D is not. We are not designing a plan. Plan is very much in detail. Is she conducting a preliminary engagement activity? Yes. This is not a strategy. So answer is going to be B. Now, considering the number of locations and the branches, requirement of the financial reporting framework and expected time of completion are the relevant factors. Primary for which of the following? What is this? When she's considering the number of branches and all, is she developing a plan? So like we mentioned, plan is always in detail. Is she establishing a strategy? Yes. She's considering, what branches she need to visit. There are how many branch, what are the requirement of the AFRF. So in a way, this is nothing but a strategy. See, when we make a plan, document it and give it in detail to the team, it is called as program. So this is not a program, and this is nowhere a risk assessment procedure. So answer here is going to be B, that is establishing strategy. Taking into account description of the plan, inquiry and visit, which of the following is true? The planned visit are in the area of audit strategy? No, this is not. Planned visit are for the risk assessment. Yes, definitely they are for risk assessment. Here they themselves said okay, they are doing this, they are visiting this for risk assessment. So based on this, they can decide the NT. So here the answer is nothing but what? B, because it very evidently they have stated in the case study itself that this is a risk assessment. What is the detail of the set of instruction given to the assistant in the engagement team known? So what we give the team is nothing but audit program. See, a lot of students might be confused with guidelines. This is not guidelines. When we give a detailed thing what is to be done, it is called as program. See, we have studied 3 things. Strategy. Based on strategy, we make a detailed plan, and based on plan, we make a program. Next, the issue of generation of scrap has been overlooked in the detail of the instruction given to the team. What should be the proper course of action now? So initially we have missed out that. Now what should we do? She should ignore this information. Why will we ignore this information? She should modify the earlier set. Yes, definitely she should modify, include this in the engagement plan. She should leave the matter to the wisdom of the engagement team. If we do that now, I mean, nothing will be checked. All they will do is play PUBG. She should put in ball of court the management as she was not provided with the complete information. We cannot blame the management. So here we will have to modify the earlier set of instruction. So honestly, a very basic case study. If you are aware of chapter number 2, you will be in a very good position to crack this. Moving ahead with your case study number 2. So the case study 2 is saying CA Rajan Pillai is heading the engagement team conducting the audit of company. While the audit is in progress, consider the following issues regarding the audit documentation. So they are talking mainly about documentation. The audit program was prepared, assigning the responsibility for different types of work to be performed by the team members. The engagement team consists of 4 members: Mohit, CA finance student; Rohit, also CA finance student; Shobit, paid CA; and CA Rajan Pillai, partner of the firm. The team has been determined materiality for the financial statement as a whole. The team has also assessed ROMMS to be low. CA Shobit is responsible for attending the inventory count process and putting down its document part. During the course of audit, many related party transactions have come to the notice on the basis of the above. Answer the following question. Which of the verification of the revenue was assigned to Mr. Mohit in audit program? However, it being performed by Rohit actually. Verification of the trade receivable was planned to be carried out by Rohit in the audit program. However, it performed by CA Rajan Pillai due to the last minute practical issues. Which of the following statement is most appropriate in this regard related to audit documentation? Audit program consists names of persons and work to be performed. It is immaterial whether the work assigned to one person is performed by another person. Second, audit program was already prepared. Only one person assigned the specific responsibilities can perform those duties. It is necessary that the audit program be suitably updated or notes are given in the working papers to effect this planned duties are in accordance with the actual. So by this is what we are supposed to do. Changes in the audit program and notes clarifying the matters require only person not forming an engagement party to deputed perform a duty. No. So answer here is quite evidently C. Next, moving ahead with 2.2, as regards materiality, which of the following is most appropriate? Materiality has been determined. There is no need to put into the working papers. We need to put the same into the working papers. Materiality depends upon the professional judgment of the auditor. Correct. Whatever amount has been determined can be documented. Okay. See, materiality arrived on professional judgment along with the factors considered in determination do need to be documented. So correct. We also have to document the factors. So answer here is C. Last point, what they are saying is materiality has been derived upon professional judgment. It also depends on professional judgment of auditor whether he wants to document or not. He always has to document. So answer is C. Next, as regards to the team's assessment that the ROMMS is low, which of the following is odd one relating to the documentation of the risk? Discussion among the engagement team and the details of the significant risk decisions reached has to be documented. Correct. Next, the details of the risk assessment procedures have to be documented. Again, we will do that as well. Details of how the understanding of each component internal control was obtained to be documented. Yes. Precise calculation of ROMMS has to be documented. This is not necessary. We cannot show a precise calculation. Next, C.A. Shobit is responsible for attending physical inventory count of the company. Which of the following is usually not true in the regard to the audit documentation? Now, dates on which the physical inventory count process was attended by him should be documented. It may also include photographs of that date showing the attendance of the inventory counting. So, photographs and all those things are not very much relevant here. Then they are saying details of the test counting undertaken should form part of the audit documentation. Details of obsolete goods should form part of the audit documentation. Here, lastly, they are saying reports showing stock conform with the quality control standard in accordance with law. See, all these things you may document, but this particular thing is not true. Maybe we may not need this. So, answer here is going to be D. Lastly, as regards to the related party transaction, which of the following should not be part of audit documentation? So, management representation, it should be formed. Related party transaction policy, it should be of the documentation. Documentation to show that it is arm's length price. Document to show it that it is close length prices. What is close length basis does not matter. So, this is not going to be part of the documentation. So, this was our case study number 2. Moving ahead with the general MCQs. Now, question number 1, the term drawing power is associated with which of the following facilities? Letter of credit, term loan, staff advances, cash credit. This is nothing but cash credit if you recollect. Next, dash aims at ascertaining that the expenditure incurred has been for the purpose for which grant and appropriation has been provided and the amount of such expenditure does not exceed the appropriation made. This is nothing but what they are saying against provision of funds, proprietary audit, audit of sanctions and audit of rules and orders. So, audit against provision of funds, whether it is used for the same purpose. Which of the following is not correct? This is not audit. This is they are testing your AS knowledge. AS 18, AS 10, AS 28 and 16. Answer here is 16. Okay, so here I hope everyone has understood AS 16 is non intangible assets. Next, tools and techniques that the auditor is used in applying the principles of data analytics are CAT, that is computer assisted audit technique. Dash refers to events or conditions that indicate an incentive or pressure to commit fraud or provide an opportunity to commit fraud. This is nothing but fraud risk factors which provide an opportunity or incentive to commit fraud. So with this we are done with all the MCQs. Moving ahead with our correct incorrect. Now my friends, in correct incorrect, I am pretty sure most of you will be in a position to answer whether it is correct or incorrect. But the marks are mainly for the correct reasons that we write. So what I would insist is, what you must do is, you must revise all the correct incorrect given in the JKSE book, but focus on the reasons. My friends, even if you do all the correct incorrect from JKSE book, I ensure you will be in a position to answer in the exam, but you should focus on reason. 90% of the students focus only on correct and incorrect, and ICI does not allot marks. You will get marks for if you write the valid reasons. So your entire focus should be on memorizing the reasons, on understanding the reasons, and trying your best to write the as it is where it is. So let us go through the last part of this, that is our correct and incorrect. So question 1 here is, according to SA 315, the objective of the auditor is to identify and assess ROMMS due to fraud or error at the assertion level only. No, it is at the financial statement level plus the assertion level. So answer here is incorrect. Control environment can prevent, detect and correct a material misstatement. No, it cannot. It will just help you evaluate the controls. So again, the answer here is incorrect. While auditing the books of accounts of XYZ, the auditor of company looked into the inventory counting process to obtain audit evidence. In the present case, the audit procedure used by the auditor is inspection. No, this is nothing but what? Observation. Because we are just evaluating the process. When we check the condition of the inventory, it might be inspection, but this is nothing but observation. So answer here again is incorrect. When inventory under the custody and control of third parties material financial statement, the auditor shall obtain sufficient and appropriate evidence regarding the existence condition by written representation. No, what we need to do is obtain an external confirmation from the third party. So again, and the answer here is incorrect. Assertion refers to the representation by the auditor to consider different types of potential misstatement. This is nothing but the representation by the management to implicitly or explicitly suggest something. So again, the answer here is incorrect. As per SA 200, the overall objectives of the auditor in conducting the audit of financial statement, the overall objective of the auditor is to obtain absolute assurance whether the financial statement as a whole are free from material misstatement due to fraud. No, we want to just see that the financial statement are free from material statement. We can just give only reasonable assurance, and our objective is to express an opinion. So answer again here is incorrect. Next, once the overall audit strategy has been established, an audit plan can be developed to address the various matters identified in the audit strategy. The establishment of the audit strategy and plan are closely interrelated. Yes, both are very closely related. It goes hand in hand. Answer here is correct. Lastly, teaming and loading is one of the techniques of inflating cash payment. No, it is nothing but for suppressing the cash receipts. So here again answer is incorrect. So this is nothing but your correct incorrect. Like what I mentioned, you need to focus on the reasons rather than only correct and incorrect, because majority of you will be able to get correct incorrect right, but the reasons that you write is wrong. So focus on the reasons here. So with this we are done with our discussion of the next part as well. So we are done with the amendment discussion, we are done with the descriptive paper, we are done with the MCQs and correct incorrect. Moving ahead with the last leg of our discussion of RTP, that is final do's and don'ts and the chronology and everything that you need to refer. So few important things that you need to make sure. Which chapters do you need to do? See, this is based on the last paper of November 22. Company audit, everyone is aware that it is important. It is usually for around 20 marks. November 22 they ask for 14 marks, but company audit obviously is going to be important. Next is risk assessment. So in case of risk assessment, this chapter is for almost 10 marks. So again, this is going to be important. Next is audit of items of financial statement, which is your chapter number 9, which was asked for 12 marks. Next is audit documentation. Audit documentation was asked again for 9 marks. So if you consider this so far, this is how much? This comes to 45 marks, which is out of 70. So this itself is 4 chapter is itself giving you coverage of 45 marks. So you must focus firstly on this 4 chapters. Once you are done with this 4 chapters, only then you should proceed ahead. So this is chapter 10, this is chapter 4, this is chapter 9, this is chapter 3. Once you are done with this, you should proceed with chapter number 11, which is nothing but audit report. Audit report is also around 6 marks. In fact, a lot of times I've asked for around 10 marks. After this, you should proceed with chapter number 1, which is nature, scope and objective, which is also again for roughly around how many marks. So these are the chapters that you must do it. Okay, so even if you add this 2, you will add 12 more marks, so it will go to 57 out of how many? 70. So somewhere around 6 chapters if you focus, out of 70 marks you are in a position to get 57 marks. So this should be your chronology. Once these chapters are done, then for the rest of the chapters I leave it on to you. Whatever chronology you want to follow, you can follow. I would insist after this you should do audit of banks. After this you should do chapter number 2 that is left, chapter number 6. So here I would not insist on any chronology, rather I would say you can select your own chronology, whichever chapters you are confident with. But these are the 6 chapters you need to focus on. For this 6 chapter there should be no compromise. Every chapter you will have to do it here. Okay, so these are the chapters that you need to focus on. Now when you are answering, when you are preparing, make sure you focus on correct incorrect reason. So in correct incorrect reason, if you have any of your friend who have asked for an institute paper after failing, you will see majority of the students are losing out marks here. If you write the correct reason and the correct incorrect, out of 14 marks you should score at least 10 marks. Majority of the students are scoring less than 6 marks here. So your target should be scoring at least 10 marks here. MCQs, I'm pretty sure you can definitely score 20 marks. So your focus firstly should be on this, and the most important focus should be on the reasons of correct incorrect. So just make sure you read the reasons, memorize the reasons, and you score your marks here. Next, the problem that students are facing a lot of time, what they are not doing is writing the SA number. So you need to write the SA number. For example, if you say SA 500, you must write SA 500 audit evidence. You should not write only 500. You should not write only audit evidence. You should write both the things together. Section number, we have always mentioned you need to write the section number. We barely have very few sections in our syllabus. You need to write the section number. Whenever you are answering in a case study question, it has to be in 3-para format. The first para will always be the provisions. You will get marks for writing that provisions only. Second para is case specific. No marks are allotted because case study they have already given. And third is your conclusion. You will get marks for conclusion and provision. But a lot of times it is point specific answer. There is no case study. So in point specific answers, you must always write introduction, and followed by introduction, you will always write the points. A lot of answers, you hardly have 5 points, 6 points. It is completely okay. You need not make your own 2 to 3 extra points just to write 8 points. A lot of professors says write 7 to 8 points. It depends on what the answer is. If you have 12, 13 points, write 7 to 8 points. If you have only 4 points, you will not write your own 3 points. You will write only those 4 relevant points. Nothing more is needed. Whenever you are attempting a paper, in your chronology, make sure you firstly do your MCQs, followed by your correct incorrect, and then you go to descriptive. A lot of people do MCQs at a later stage. Easy MCQs will start looking tricky, and when you are in a haste, when the time is a limiting factor, a lot of times you may take the wrong answers. A lot of times you may misinterpret the easy questions. So always firstly do MCQs and correct incorrect. Apart from this, everything else we have covered in the class. When you talk about language, at least 50% or more language should be in your institute language. If all the students have studied with me, summary notes plus JKSC book will give you a coverage of almost 80%. Only summary notes will also give you 50% coverage. So you do not worry, you are sorted with language. Do not try to write your answers on your own. Focus more on the language. So with this, I will finally put an end. I will not waste more time of yours. So thank you very much. This was a short video where we discussed the RTP. All the students who have already seen the earlier RTP lectures, no worries, but the students who are giving the first exam, I would suggest whenever you are tired in your free time, also review the RTP lectures uploaded in the previous attempts. You will get those in the playlist of JK Shah classes YouTube channel. You can see the previous RTP on 2x. Whenever you're tired, just put it and a lot of questions will be revised again and again. So just see all the RTPs that you can see. Thank you very much. All the best. See you once again in season 2, that is CA final. All the best for your exam. If you have any doubts, we are always available for you. You have the doubt solving mechanism, the doubt solving helpline, you have the Zoom sessions. We are always there for you. Thank you very much. See you soon.